this is when the whole war had just not started, but it was like ready to start. So I feel like he kind of had an idea that something was going to go down. And he basically said, I need to just get the house up on the market. And he said, I'm going to need a lot from you, because he said, I'm going to be traveling a lot. I may not be here. And, I'm going to need you to really take care of a lot of stuff for me. And I said, all right, no problem. So basically, he gave me the keys to the house. I had to prep everything. And, I didn't hear from him for weeks. And, sometimes when I needed him, house took a little bit of time to sell. But, when I had a question from him, he'd get back to me 3-4 days. And I didn't even know where he was. He said he was just traveling overseas. And I was trying to put two and two together and saying to myself, maybe he's going back to Ukraine, but why would he do that if they were in all this controversy or whatever it was. And he was in IT, so I thought maybe, he needs to go back there because maybe that's part of his work. Or I was thinking to myself, maybe he's like some secret agent or something like that has to go back to the country. But I ended up finding out that, I guess as a Ukrainian citizen, he had to go back once the war started. And he had to be, since he was a Ukrainian citizen, he wasn't a US citizen, he had to be in Ukraine while everything was going on. And, once we finally got a deal, he had to obviously get power of attorney, he had to sign everything. And I could not believe what this guy had to go through in order to get this deal basically done. So, we tried to get power of attorney done. The only way to do that was for him to go to the United States Embassy in, I guess, Ukraine. And it was shut down because of the war that was going on. We were in the midst of this whole debacle that's been going on, and he couldn't go there. What he had to do was he had to rent a car and he had to drive, 5 or 6 hours, I think, into Turkey. And he had to get the power of attorney done there. And he told me afterwards that it was basically he was in the middle of this war and things that he saw were terrible, and he had to travel 6 hours. He didn't even know if he was going to be able to get there, get over the border and do this. And he ended up, he got everything taken care of, and he had to do DHL. I guess UPS and FedEx had shut down. They weren't going to do any sort of transportation, to and from Ukraine. But I guess DHL was. So he sent the documents, and I said, do you have any sort of an idea when it's going to get here? Because we needed it within a certain amount of time. And he said, honestly, I have no idea if it's even going to get there. He said, I hope it does, but he said, what's going on here? Let's just hope for the best. So we waited, and it just wasn't showing up. So we had to kind of go to plan B. And luckily, he was able to get a 30-day release where he came back to the United States. He was able to go to the attorney's office, sign the documents, in person, to do the power of attorney for the attorney, to take care of everything. And after the closing happened, his documents showed up at the attorney's office in 6 different Ziploc bags full of some sort of liquid. They were drenched. And the attorney basically said he has never smelled something so bad in his entire life. So the documents went through war just as if the country had been. And even had those documents arrived earlier, they're soaking wet, all the ink was bleeding. We wouldn't have even been able to kind of take care of this stuff. But that was just a crazy transaction, because for him, I didn't know what he was going through until after he kind of explained what he was doing. But, it just shows what kind of a role we play sometimes, where, you think you're just selling this person's house. But, I had to take care of basically everything in the house while he was gone, because he couldn't do anything. His, one time, in between contract and the appraisal, it was say a couple of weeks, I'd gone to the house, the grass was probably 2-3 feet high because he had stopped his landscapers, and I didn't know that. So I had to get a landscaper to come every single week. I had to pay out of pocket just to get the landscaper to come cut the grass every week. His sprinklers, weren't on. I had to make sure that the sprinklers were on. I had to make sure all the mail was taken in. He had stuff that he still had in the house. So I had to call service to come, give him estimates on how much everything was going to be to move. I had to get the moving company to come, kind of package everything up, put it in storage for him. And it's just one of those transactions where you had to be super involved. And, I'm happy that he chose me because, I'm on a lot of deals with agents where I'm asking them, just to get access to the house for people to come in and, maybe get an estimate on cabinets or a bathroom, and I can't even get in the house. So, had I not been on this deal and he had somebody else working this deal that maybe didn't really care, none of this stuff would have gotten done. Meanwhile, this guy is in the middle of a war, his family's there, and none of this would have been taken care of. When I saw him after everything was kind of taken care of, he basically broke down and cried because he was so super thankful that everything got taken care of. He's like, you don't know what this means to me, that I knew that everything was getting taken care of here, and I was dealing with so much at home with the kids and my family and work and what was going on in the country, that, you just put me at peace of mind that at home everything was being taken care of. And he goes, I'm sorry you had to deal with all this stuff, but I'm so thankful that, for whatever reason, I decided to call you to, take care of this transaction for me. And he said, I'm super thankful. And, he had to now go back to Ukraine. And I knew that he was super scared because I could just see it in his face and his eyes. And, he kind of, like I said, he broke down and crying. And it was just so sad to now see him so happy with everything going on with the house, but now have to go back into this war zone and not really know, what to expect. Luckily, everything worked out. I touch base with him every couple of months, and I just heard from him a couple weeks ago. He shot me an email and he said, everything's good. He said, I relocated to Florida. My family's down here. I had all my stuff shipped down. And again, just thank you so much for everything you did for me. And that was probably one of my favorite listings that I've had, just because of what I had to go through, but to make this happen for him, but also the end result was great for him. And just crazy, what other people, we think we have a lot going on in our lives and crappy stuff happens, but there's people out in this world that have to deal with real life situations like this. And, luckily I get to meet people like this because it kind of grounds you when you're having a bad day and you're bitching and moaning about all these little stupid things. You just kind of go back and think about, there's people out here that are actually having to deal with stuff like this. So, sitting in traffic or, not eating lunch or, stepping in mud with your nice shoes isn't the biggest deal in the world. There's people out there that are dealing with, real life stuff. So it just kind of puts things in perspective when you get a listing like that and just have an experience like this.